Here we have Hank Levin, and he is giving a short introduction from two of his very interesting book. And there's a third book. Maybe he will talk about that also.
Okay, the first one is the book How to Talk to Anyone About Anything. And that's the first book that I published. And that is a bunch of insights that I got from working with my mentor, Tia Greenberg. Um, and it's a communication workshop. It was the outline for a communication workshop that we taught in order to teach someone who is doing clearing work to establish and maintain communication with their clients. Um, it used to be called Making Magic with Communication when it was first put out, and we changed the name to How to Talk to Anyone About Anything. We've used these workshops with this book for all kinds of things besides just clearing practitioners. I've had a course in with parents and teenagers. It was sponsored by the Catholic Church in San Jose. We use them for couples counseling, and we've also used them for sales workshops for real estate personnel. So these are very, very powerful principles, and um, it's rather cursory. It's not very descriptive, like you would like to see a book in a bookstore. They're rather outlines for different drills that you use one after the other, and there is a lot of insight in it. The other book is Solo Clearing Manual, and this is a book that teaches a person to do clearing on themselves, which is it can be challenging to do because you're playing two roles when you're doing clearing on yourself. You are the practitioner who is, of course, always in control of the situation, and you are the client who is wandering around exploring different things and not really trying to control things, only trying to focus on themselves. So you have to be able to go back and forth, which is an ability that some people can develop, and it's a talent. Some people have it more than others. Uh, but this book shows you how to do it, and it has a bunch of procedures that you can use on yourself. And I could talk a lot more about solo clearing, but the book is definitive. It's a good book for that.
Okay, you have a third book which is very good. I would say it's a standard book. It's a standard about clearing. It's maybe even the best book on this topic, and it's a very scientific book, not like these pseudo-scientific books I got from sources. They call themselves Dianetics and such. So it's really scientific point by point. Can you talk a little bit about this book also?
The Solo Clearing Manual.
About the last book that I
I'm
already have.
sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. This is about the clearing, a guide for professionals. First of all, um, I a little bit regret the name a guide for professionals because it is not only for professionals. It's for anybody who's trying to do this work on any level. In fact, when I have clients, I ask them to buy the book and I assign to them certain chapters out of it. Really, a lot of the book is things that we should all been taught by the time we were 10 years old. So it has a lot of principles uh, to help you understand what stress is. Um, the various therapy modalities all talk about stress. Very few of them have an effective definition for stress. The government position on stress is the only legal way to handle stress is with drugs. They consider that the establishment considers that stress is the manifestation of not enough prescription drugs in your bloodstream, you see, and they have a very tight political and economic control over this. But we have a good definition for stress and for understanding where it comes from. There are a lot of things in the book about running a profession. Some of them you don't need to want to deal with if you're not actually trying to run a profession. There's a section on dangerous clients, for instance, people that it would be very difficult for you as a private practitioner to deal with without the backup of an institution, how to recognize these things.
Can I interrupt you for a moment, Hank? So the point is, we are getting here to some points that are not essential for the book. So I have a question. I will ask you some questions about the book. Can you give some examples from your clients you have been treating with these methods you have described in the book?
Examples from clients. This I probably called. I'm going a little bit blank on that. So it would be good to have.
Okay, somebody call you with a psychological problem. Okay, this means you take the techniques you describe in the book and you will be able to help the person.
Of course, if you understand somebody who's calling you with a problem is always calling you because they have a goal.
So, for example, we have the 4 negative mental energies you describe in the book.
Can you say that again?
We have these 4 negative mental energies you describe in the book. So, which one of these is the most common, would you say?
Upsets.
Upsets is the most common problem.
They're all common, but if you were demonstrating the biomonitor, if you ask a person in the last week, is there somebody who you've been upset with? Almost always it will read. Almost always. Most people are walking around with a suppressed anger or disappointment about something, sometimes from a very long time. If somebody is telling you that they are sad, this is an upset that's gone on too long. If they tell you that they are depressed, the mechanism of depression really is not the electronic reversal of things going on in the brain. It's an upset that's gone on for a very long time, so long that the person has decided it will never change and they have to live with it. This creates an endocrine reaction. This creates a physiological, in quotations, adjustment. And the person, it starts to affect the endocrine system and it affects health directly.
So if I understand you right, you have a person with depression and using the techniques in this book, you can localize the hidden upset and therefore remove the depression.
Absolutely.
Okay, depression is one point. Do you have other such points where you say, okay, people call me with this, I can help, for example, headache?
A headache?
I have read it in your book, but talk a little bit. Did you have people, I don't think, maybe they don't call you often with headache, but what would you say if they call you with a headache?
A headache is recognized as a physiological problem. Now, if they have a headache and they're not looking for any kind of personal insight, I might recommend that they go to a doctor. Or they can take drugs. drugs will get rid of the headache and everything else. The problem, there's an underlying principle, though, that almost all physiological manifestations, most physiological difficulties are a manifestation of some personal issue. Now, if they're interested in that approach, we can do it. There are many things that cause headaches. Headaches are generally very easy to resolve. Not always the same way, but if a person has a headache, you can say, "When did the headache start?" They might say, "Well, 10 o'clock this morning." And if you say to them, "Who's the last person that you spoke to before you got the headache?" Almost always it will be somebody that they had some deep disagreement with, and it was not resolved. There was some undelivered communication, and after the person went away, they got the headache. And when they realize this, suddenly the headache goes away. You can try this out. This is very easy to do. It doesn't take any particular skill or research. You just be curious and try it out. It will not always work, but it works enough of the time so that you prove to yourself that there is a mental connection between the headache, which is physical, and the problem and the issue.
What do you think about people? Do people come to you with bad behaviors and ask you for help?
Yes, overeating.
Oh,
Overeating is a big issue. Any kind of compulsive behavior is. There are two approaches to dealing with compulsive or obsessive behavior. One is to understand that any undesired behavior is in some way an effort to solve a problem, and it may in fact have at one time solved the problem and be continuing. Okay, this is one approach. And another approach, and these things work together, it's not either or, is that this is opening up a big subject, but we are much more closely connected to each other than our culture admits or permits us to admit or explore. So sometimes we are operating from a viewpoint other than our own. Sometimes
is it the thing that we have talked about last time?
perhaps, yes.
Okay,
Yes.
then we then we don't talk about this now. Have another question. Have another question, Hank.
Yeah.
Have another question. What would you say if there would be clients, for example, seeing this video on my site and they want to get in contact with you? Do you accept customers from Europe?
Clients from Europe, yes, and I do work over the internet.
You don't invite them to USA and say, here's a hotel, you have to stay 2 weeks.
That's fun to do if they can afford to do it, of course. They can come and visit me. Especially now, I am in Oregon, and we have some, room for guests.
Oh, that's good.
But the best way is to just contact me by email, hank@clearingtech.net. It's CLEARING, T as in Thomas, ECH.net. And we can work something out. Sometimes we can just work over the internet.
How high would you say is your success rate in these fields we have been talking about?
Compared to what?
No, somebody comes to you and say, Hank, please help me.
Well, I think that compared to other modalities, it's very, very successful. Uh,
Also, let me say, you have in
Nothing,
more cases than 75%, more cases than 85%.
certainly more than 75%. Um, Nobody is 100%, and
Of course, it also depends how patient the customer is and how much at the end he can pay for if he is poor, maybe he cannot afford it. I don't know. There may be problems in cases.
that is generally not the issue because many of these things can be resolved rather quickly. This is not a modality where you just keep coming and keep coming and keep coming for the same problem
And
and,
keep
and, and
paying.
you go on hoping. Um, there are people come for different reasons. Some people come because they are in anguish. They're in a great deal of physical or mental pain, usually both. And if when you can relieve that pain, then they are finished and they are gone. And this is gratifying. Some people recognize that this is a modality that enables them to handle many things. And so once an initial serious issue is dealt with, maybe a marriage problem or a problem with children or a problem with work, once that is done, they become interested in reading about it, and they will keep coming back every maybe 6 weeks and get a session for like a tune-up. They have a different thing that they're dealing with, maybe a new girlfriend. That's always a problem.
Oh, really?
Well, you know, uh, or a new job or a new experience that they want some help with. And so people like this will keep coming, but it's not like they're addicted to the sessions. It's they recognize that this is a resource. And then some people become interested enough to want to do this themselves.
So, for example, people who have a new job and they realize they have problems with leading other people. Their authority is not respected or something like this.
Yeah, this would work for that. Yes.
So typical job problems. Um, okay, Hank. Also then I want to thank you now that you have given me an introduction to your three books. I have read one of them. I can highly recommend your book to anybody.
Thank you.
And yeah, and do you want to say a last sentence?
Well, I appreciate your interest in this, and thank you for being interested enough to share the presentation and our energies together with your associates. And I hope somebody has learned enough here to make them curious. Uh, and the book is the clearing guide is right now in short supply. They can get it from Amazon.com,
Oh, good.
and they can get it directly from me using that email address. And of course, there's a website, clearingtech.net, and they can get it from there. And I am available to answer questions, and I enjoy sharing what I'm doing with people.
Okay, also see you soon, Hank.
Thank you. Okay.